The basic idea behind most real estate investments is to purchase property, then rent that property to a tenant. When you purchase a property correctly, the rent should cover your expenses and then some. The excess is your cash flow. But the reality is that every investment property is vacant at some point. So what happens when you don't have a tenant? Not having a tenant doesn't mean that the bills stop. The answer is that you pay a property's expenses out of your own pocket, not rental income. Expenses can include taxes, insurance, utilities, mortgage payments, and more. This is why every investor should have a vacancy reserve. So what is a vacancy reserve exactly? Quite simply, a vacancy reserve is savings that you have on hand to protect you, the investor, if your property is vacant. A typical vacancy reserve is 5% of the monthly rent and should be set aside each month over the time you own a property. A typical vacancy reserve is 2 months of the monthly rent that you should have on hand should the property become vacant and you end up paying expenses yourself. So if you charge $1,000 in rent per month, you should have $2,000 set aside in a vacancy reserve. The conservative investor adds to this vacancy reserve at a rate of about 5% per month. So if you charge $1,000 in rent each month, you save an additional $50 for your vacancy reserve. This way, should you lose a tenant or have a property go vacant, you have a reserve built up that will pay the expenses until you find a new tenant. Because some areas are more prone to vacancy than others, you may want to adjust your vacancy reserve to better fit your property's needs.